Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and as promised, I wanted to get you a first look at Star Wars Battlefront, which is now in open beta until the 12th. Now, there's currently two game types that are available to play. The first of which is being like protecting the drop pods, which is essentially like a King of the Hill type of game. The second is a Battle on Hoth, which plays like a pseudo-rush type game from the Battlefield franchise, where you are trying to stop the AT-ATs from pushing up and basically destroying everything. So with those out of the way, let's go ahead and jump in and start talking about the game. Overall, the game feels a lot like two other DICE games that I've played, especially their FPS games that have been released lately, and that would be Battlefield and Medal of Honor Warfighter. The interesting thing is that the feel of the game kind of changes based on the two modes that are currently available. In the drop pod game, it plays a lot like Warfighter. Now, the movement, regardless of the mode, is closer to that of Warfighter than Battlefield, but the maps seem to have a certain routes that it kind of wants you to take. And while there's more flexibility in your paths than the Warfighter game gives you, you'll almost have that same feeling as you're playing. Now, Hoth has a different feeling entirely. There's some tunneled off areas, but for the most part, it's large and it's open, and like a Battlefield map, you get a lot of vehicles that you can use and stationary weaponry, and you're going to get that same feel that I'm talking about. Now, the two maps are filled with just action overall. Both maps have a bevy of environmental action swirling around. Overhead, you have fighter battles and cruisers and destroyers all visible in orbit above. The difference on Hoth, though, is that you're actually able to pilot TIE fighters and interceptors, A-wings, X-wings, and speeders. The vehicles seem to play a very large part of the battle, and they're actually very powerful. Now, I wouldn't go as far to say that they're overpowered for a couple reasons, though. There's a lot of stationary weapons that you can use to do damage to them. There's other vehicles that you can use on your side to do damage. And then there's different power-ups to kind of help you take them down. Now, they can be a pain to deal with, but it's really not that bad. Now, my biggest frustration with the vehicles comes with the way that you get into them. They're kind of in these predetermined power-up indicators that are scattered around the map, and you can run to them and equip them. However, for several of them, they're placed in a terrible and just very open location. Now, I get the idea of not wanting to put kind of just sitting at the back of the map, so you're encouraging people to move forward. You've seen all the people waiting around for tanks and choppers and jets in Battlefield. But this isn't really the right move either, just kind of having them in the middle of a firefight, because you kind of need to stand there for a second to actually get it. So at least for me, I don't think it's where it should be, but it's close, and I like the idea of encouraging people to move up and actually continuing to play the objective. Now, general gameplay is fast-paced, and the FPS elements are pretty good overall. I was actually pleasantly surprised by the relatively high time to kill, which really rewards accuracy, and headshots do a lot more damage, giving that extra skill. Now, one thing that I don't like, though, is that while there is skill in shooting, the regeneration in your health comes back up at a borderline ridiculous pace. You have no regeneration for what feels like longer than expected, and then, boom, you're suddenly full again. So I would have preferred them to kind of hit a middle ground here and make it, more of a consistent, slow regen, or something a bit different from where it is now. But that's probably just my preference, and I see what they're getting at, not letting people regen too soon or something along those lines. Now, in addition, there's, some nice differences between the Empire and the Rebel starting weapons. The Empire fires slower, but it seems like their weapons are more powerful. One nice element to playing with a laser over a traditional firearm is you don't have to reload. You're just watching out for overheating. So you're not going to be able to just fire continuously, and that seems to be the case for almost every weapon in the game, stationary or personal. You're not limited to your default blaster in this game either, because you can choose from different weapons, and you can also carry more than just the one. You end up earning and buying additional weapons with in-game currency earned through experience. I really enjoyed, for example, having my blaster as my standard weapon and the actual projectile sniper rifle for longer range accuracy. You've got, I guess the only way to describe it is probably your thrown weapon, your grenades and that sort of thing. And your secondary weapons are both on recharges. So you fire or throw one, and then you have to wait till that charge has come back up and able to be using it again. Now, as mentioned before, power-ups are found on the ground and have these little indicators so you know which they are, and then you just kind of stand and hover over them for a second. Now, when these are items like bombs or rocket launchers, you can just use the button associated with them and equip it. When it's a vehicle, you crouch, then you end up calling it in, and then I assume that you kind of just take on that commander's role of that vehicle, and all of a sudden you're driving or flying or doing whatever with that thing. You have what looks to be about 12 seconds to use it, though, once it's in your inventory. Otherwise, I would assume it just goes away. Now, I didn't have an opportunity to let it go away because I wanted to test everything out, but I'm assuming that's in place to prevent people from kind of bogarting all the good stuff. In addition to the vehicles, weapons, and other power-ups I've already talked about, you can also take on a hero power-up, assuming the role of either Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader. And that is awesome. Each of them obviously comes with a lightsaber, so you can slash people like crazy, and both of them have some crazy next-level athleticism by jumping higher and running faster, but they also have special moves. One of those is the Force Choke by Vader, and it's actually kind of a scary experience the first time it happens. The heroes are definitely not immune to damage, though, so if you go in charging like a moron, or like I've done, it's really easy to take on too much damage and get yourself killed. For those of you that want to check the game out, it's on Origin, and it's currently free. Keep in mind it's just a beta, so this is not going to be something you're going to have for the long term. And for right now, I think it's totally worth checking out. I mean, it's hard to argue with the price tag of free. It's also worth noting that the musical themes in these games are probably extremely copyrighted. So if you're making content, I would avoid using the audio, or maybe go into the settings and turn the music all the way down, though playing with the Star Wars theme is just so damn epic that I would have a hard time doing that. But if you have questions about this game, or you've tried it yourself, put it all that in the comments. I'd love to see what you guys thinking. Otherwise, stay tuned for more. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care.